I would have forgiven you, my husband. I would have never complained about anything ever again. But even that you couldn't do. You pushed me, and I fell to the ground, right outside our door. My heart was racing, my body trembling from the impact. Standing in front of me was my daughter, Rubina, her young eyes wide with understanding far beyond her years. She had grown so much, learning to grasp the harsh realities of our home. She had seen her father's anger before, witnessed him raise his hand against me time and time again. Today, her eyes were teary, glistening with pain, and my heart pounded as I thought of all she had to endure, watching her mother suffer. But what I saw in her hands that day shocked me beyond words. It felt as if the ground beneath my feet had shifted, as if the world I knew had crumbled in an instant. Holding something tightly with both her small hands, she walked up to me and said softly, "Here, take this, Mom." My husband was outside at the time, unaware of the storm brewing within our home. What my little girl held in her hands was something so unexpected, so overwhelming, that it changed everything. Stay with me until the end of the story to find out what it was, and let's dive into this emotional journey together. I often wonder if I was the worst daughter in the world. Perhaps that's why, without much thought, my parents married me off to a man who saw women merely as vessels for bearing children, someone who had no respect for us, no regard for our worth. Maybe because I wasn't the perfect daughter, I ended up in a household where I was stripped of dignity, where my voice was silenced, and my existence was reduced to fulfilling expectations I could never meet. But when Allah blessed me with my daughters, I vowed not to be a bad mother. My elder daughter, Rubina, was growing up fast, her mind sharp and her heart kind. I wanted her to have a future, to rise above the limitations of our circumstances. Despite countless arguments, fights, and resistance from my family, I fought to send her to school. My mother-in-law scoffed, saying, "What will she do after passing the 10th grade? What's the point of educating a girl?" But my intention was never to stop at the 10th grade. I dreamed of seeing Rubina soar, her potential limitless, her spirit unbroken by the weight of tradition. Rubina was exceptional in her studies, always topping her class, her report cards a source of quiet pride for me. But the pressure at home was relentless. She saw her father's verbal abuse, his cruel words cutting into me day after day. He blamed me for everything, especially after we welcomed our 2 daughters. To him, something was wrong with me because I couldn't conceive again. He called me barren, a word that stung like a whip. One day, I couldn't hold back anymore. I snapped, "If I'm barren, how did these 2 beautiful daughters come into being?" His response was cold and cutting. "A woman who only gives birth to daughters is considered barren. A woman is complete only when she gives birth to a son. And since you can't, you're useless." Those words echoed in my mind, each one a dagger to my heart. He would delegate his tasks to his mother, my mother-in-law, and then come home to pick fights with me, as if I were the source of all his frustrations. I called my daughter Rubina Baina with all the love in my heart. One day, she looked at me with her innocent eyes and asked, "Doesn't Dad love you, Mom?" My heart ached, but I forced a smile. "Dear, a man's love is different. He loves us in his own way. He buys groceries for us, provides for our needs. But he gets angry sometimes, so don't say such things in front of him, okay?" I wanted to protect her, to shield her from the truth of our fractured home. When I first enrolled her in school, she excelled immediately, topping her class with ease. This only fueled my mother-in-law's taunts, but my husband's silence spoke volumes. His lack of objection meant he didn't entirely disagree with my decision to educate our daughter. Rubina continued to shine, her achievements a beacon of hope in our otherwise turbulent life. I never imagined she would do something that could turn our world upside down, but that day came, and it left me speechless. One afternoon, the school principal and the police arrived at our doorstep. My heart sank. I thought to myself, if I hadn't recognized the principal, I wouldn't have even opened the door. Trembling, I asked, "Yes, why are you here?" The principal's face was stern. "We need to talk about something urgent regarding your daughter." My mind raced. If it's about my daughter, why bring the police? I demanded, my voice shaking. The principal replied, "The matter is serious. Fear gripped me as memories of that fateful night flooded back. I knew why they were here, and it was the worst day of my life. That morning, my husband's aunt and cousin had visited our home. This cousin, Sadia, was the woman my mother-in-law had wanted my husband to marry. Our weddings had happened back-to-back, but my husband chose me for my looks, rejecting Sadia. Now he regretted it. Why? Because Sadia had 4 sons, and my mother-in-law never let him forget it. She taunted him constantly, saying, if you had married Sadia, you'd be the father of 4 boys by now. Look at you, not a single son, not even the fortune of having more children. Her words were venomous, and they stung deeply. She even suggested, Sadia is out of your reach now, but her younger sister, Naima, could be yours. My husband, to his credit, pushed back. Mother, fear Allah. She's 10 years younger than me. But my mother-in-law was relentless. Just agree, and I'll talk to my sister. She'll be eager to give her daughter to us. We have such a good relationship. By not marrying Sadia, you embarrassed me, but there's still time. I can arrange Naima's marriage with you. Divorce your wife. My heart sank completely. Divorce? The word felt like a death sentence. But then, for the first time, my husband showed a glimpse of care. I cannot do that, mother. She's the mother of my daughters. What would become of them if I divorced her? They'd be left motherless. His words were a small comfort, a rare moment where he acknowledged his responsibility toward our girls. He rarely cared whether they had eaten, how they were feeling, or if they were sick. My parents, though poor, sent clothes for my daughters, and I managed their food and care, often staying up through the night when they fell ill. But then my husband suggested, maybe I should take my wife to a doctor to find out if there's a problem. After that, we can think about another marriage. I overheard everything, and my heart burned with the realization that I had some rights in this marriage. I confronted him, and he dismissed me coldly. There's no need to talk more about this. I'll take you to the doctor. If he says you can bear a son, I'll give you a year. If you can give me a son within that time, great. Otherwise, I'll marry Sadia's younger sister, Naima. They only have sons in their family. Furious, I retorted, oh really? So Sadia and Naima's children have a different father, do they? The words slipped out, a rare moment of defiance after years of enduring his abuse. But that became my crime. He raised his hand, and as Rubina returned from school, he slapped me so hard that I fell outside the door. My daughter stood there, her small frame trembling, holding something in her hands that made my world spin. I felt as if the ground beneath me had vanished. What have you picked up? I asked, my voice shaking. In a rush, I took her to her room. She looked at me with tearful eyes and said, Mom, Dad won't scold you anymore. What he wants, this is it. My limbs trembled uncontrollably as I saw what she held. I was paralyzed, unsure of what to do. Despite everything, my husband's oppression, his taunts, his abuse, my daughter had brought something that felt like the apocalypse itself. Sweating profusely, I told her, if your father asks where I am, say I've gone to Grandma's house. My mother's house was just behind my in-laws, a short walk across one house. That day, I fled there, desperate for refuge. My mother was shocked to see me. What's wrong? She asked, her eyes wide with concern. Just don't ask me anything now, I pleaded. Take this. I have to leave right now. She nodded, sensing the urgency. Okay, I'm doing something. Don't worry, my child. It seems a big storm is about to come your way. I replied, Mom, the storm isn't coming. It has already arrived because Rubina brought it. Where she got it from, I don't know. My mother placed her hand on her head and sat down, overwhelmed. I knew things were spiraling in a dangerous direction. I returned home, my hands trembling as I tried to resume my chores. My husband, as usual when angry, had left the house and wouldn't return until night. Just as I was trying to steady myself, Nazma, my neighbor, walked in. Nazma was the neighborhood's gossip queen, always carrying news from one house to another. She knew everything, and she had already spread word that my husband was oppressive, that he had gone mad over wanting a son, and that I was now punished by being unable to have more children. I was too quiet, too broken to confront her about why she spread such stories about me. She sauntered into the kitchen and asked, Are you busy? I nodded, my voice barely above a whisper. Yes, a bit. I resumed washing the dishes, hoping she'd leave. But Nazma had news, as always. I have something that will completely shock you. Isn't there a girls' school in our area? It's about to be shut down. Didn't you enroll your daughter there? She'll lose a couple of years now. I reminded her, you seem to forget that your daughter studies there too. Nazma shrugged carelessly. What does it matter? She failed 2 subjects last time. I say let the school close so her studies can stop. That way, I can get her married off. My heart sank further. Why? What happened at the school? I asked, dreading her answer. She leaned in, her voice dripping with drama. A big incident occurred at the school. Something happened in the bathroom. My daughter told me everything. Remember Mrs. Mary, the teacher? She went to the bathroom one day and soon after, screams were heard. She was screaming terribly, then ran to the principal's office, saying something was lying in the bathroom, moving. Everyone was worried. What could it be that made Mrs. Mary scream like that? She took everyone to the girls' washroom, but when they arrived, there was nothing there. Now, some people are calling her crazy, while others say maybe there really was something that escaped. I pressed her, my voice trembling. What was it? Do you know? Nazma smirked, enjoying the suspense. That's why I'm telling you. I've gathered all the news before coming here. Make me some tea in the meantime. As I put the tea on the stove, I urged her, tell me, what was it? She leaned closer, her voice low. It wasn't an animal or creature that scared the teacher. It was a human child. Seeing a child in such a situation in the bathroom would scare anyone. That's why she was screaming and ran to the principal's office. But by the time they returned, the child had vanished from the washroom. Fear settled deep in my heart as she continued. Everyone knows this baby is the result of someone's misdeeds. What else could it be? This is a girls' school. Perhaps some girl indulged in immoral acts and gave birth to this child, abandoning it like that. They lack any sense of responsibility, but they're cunning and cruel enough to leave the baby there. What I can't figure out is where the baby went. Who took it? What happened to it? By now, the news must have spread across the village. I was terrified. If Rubina's father found out about this, he would surely say, there's no need to send our daughter to such a school. Nazma agreed, saying, indeed, no girl should study in a school where such incidents occur. Have you ever heard of such a thing before? I replied, my voice heavy. When I was a child, I heard a girl from our school ran away from the hostel. We thought it was a huge scandal. And now, signs of immorality are emerging within the school. What could be worse than this? I'm telling you, take your daughter out of this school. But I pushed back. If I take her out, where will I admit her? Other schools are far away, and the commuting expenses are too high. Sending her to school was already a challenge. Now it will be even more difficult. Nazma nodded. Yes, you're right. Anyway, I have to visit another house now. I sighed, knowing she'd spread this story there too. Yes, you'll surely share this everywhere, I said. She laughed. What else can I do? I've asked my husband to buy me a phone so I can stay home and watch videos. He said he'll get me one after Eid. For now, I can't sit still, so I carry news from one place to another. And why shouldn't I? Neither my daughter nor yours has done anything wrong, so sharing this news shouldn't be a problem. I warned her, my voice firm. Listen, Nazma, this is a serious matter. Don't blow it out of proportion, or it might harm you. She brushed me off. Oh, don't worry so much. Nothing will happen to me. It's almost evening. I'll just visit 2 or 3 more houses and return home. Nazma never paid attention to her own household, her children, or her family. She spent her days spreading gossip, embodying the nosy neighbor stereotype you see in films. My blood pressure was rising. The missing baby from the school's washroom that Nazma was talking about was the one my daughter had brought home. My innocent Rubina believed her father's anger stemmed from my inability to give birth to a son. She thought bringing a baby boy home would make him stop scolding me, that it would restore harmony to our family. Her intentions were pure, but she didn't realize the gravity of her actions. If anyone found out she had taken the baby, they would assume it was hers. I had left the baby at my mother's house. My sister-in-law, who had recently given birth, had clothes, milk, and diapers for babies. She was kind and took care of the baby like her own. I prayed fervently that this news wouldn't reach my in-laws and that no one would discover Rubina's involvement. If needed, I planned to secretly hand the baby over to the police, claiming we found it abandoned. When I went to Rubina's room, I noticed her acting strangely, looking at her stomach and standing up straight when she saw me. "What were you doing?" I asked, my voice sharp. "Nothing, Mom," she replied, her eyes avoiding mine. "Do you know anything about this baby?" I pressed. She hesitated, then said, "I don't know anything, Mom. I just saw it lying there and brought it home. I thought having the baby would make Dad treat you better." I scolded her harshly, even slapped her, my fear and frustration boiling over. I made her understand the seriousness of her actions. She cried all night, saying, "Mom, I only brought the baby for you, thinking Dad would treat you well." I scolded her again. "If anyone asks you about this, tell them you know nothing." I prayed silently that no one had seen Rubina bringing the baby home. If they had, the news would have spread like wildfire by now. I was terrified of Nazma, with her endless chatter. For a moment, I considered telling her the truth, begging her to keep it quiet, but I knew she'd spread it everywhere. I spent the entire night on my prayer mat, pleading for a solution. My husband, irritated, asked, "What extra prayers are you offering now? Are you praying to God for another child?" "The doctor isn't available today, but tomorrow morning, I'll take you to see what they say about your condition." I replied, my voice steady despite my fear. "The doctor cannot decide my fate. Only Allah can. I'm content with whatever Allah has planned for me." He smirked. "So, are you giving me permission to marry again?" I shot back, "Why do you need my permission? You always do whatever you want. You've done it before, and you'll do it again. But I have one request. Think about your daughters before you act." To my surprise, he fell silent. I had expected him to lash out, but he didn't. The next morning, the school principal and the police arrived at our door. My heart sank. I was certain they had discovered the truth, that they believed Rubina had taken the baby, perhaps even thinking it was hers. They entered the courtyard just as my husband returned home. I trembled with fear, but he said nothing to me in front of them. Instead, he turned to them and asked, "Yes, gentlemen, what brings you here?" He invited them inside to discuss the matter. I told him everything, my voice shaking. The police said, "Your daughter was seen taking the baby away." "Where's the baby now?" "We need to speak to your daughter. She has tarnished the school's reputation. We will expel her to protect the school's honor." "Why should our school's name suffer because of her? A rotten apple can spoil the whole bunch." The principal added, "You always said your daughter was a good girl. This is what your good girl has done to us." At that moment, my husband did something I never imagined. He stood tall and said, "You're sitting in my house, accusing my daughter without proof. What evidence do you have that she gave birth to this child? Let's go to the hospital right now and clarify everything." Then he turned to me and said, "Bring the baby and come with us. Tell Rubina to come too." I fetched the baby from my mother's house. My sister-in-law had dressed him well and fed him. He looked healthy and innocent, his tiny face peaceful. With the baby in my arms, we went to the hospital, where tests proved that neither Rubina nor anyone in our family had any biological connection to the child. The principal looked humiliated, as if he had been slapped in the face. They couldn't say a word. My husband declared, "If anyone speaks ill of my daughters, they will have to answer to me. We found the baby, and we will decide what to do with him. You may leave now." The police said, "Until we find the baby's real parents, you can keep him with you." My husband nodded. "Understood. If the real parents are found, we'll return him to them." He handled the situation with a strength I hadn't seen before. Even when my mother-in-law questioned him, he convinced her without revealing too much. That night, the baby was still in my arms and Rubina sat nearby. When my husband entered the room, I braced myself, expecting his anger now that the principal and police were gone. But instead, he approached Rubina, gently held her hand, and asked, "My dear, why did you bring the baby home?" His voice was soft, almost tender, and I was astonished. Rubina's eyes filled with tears. Dad, you always scold and hit Mom. She cries all night because of you. I thought if I brought the baby home, you'd be happy. You always say you want a son. Look, this is a baby boy. He can be our brother." Tears welled up in my husband's eyes. He hugged her tightly and said, "Yes, my dear, he's your little brother. From now on, he will stay with us." I couldn't hold back my tears. It felt as if a burden I had carried for years had finally lifted. I looked at my husband, and he gestured to me with his eyes, silently assuring me that he had no complaints against me. He held my hand, and I broke down, sobbing with relief. From that day, we began raising the baby as our own, without a doubt in our hearts. The child was the result of someone's actions, but he was innocent. The school had taken his DNA sample, and one day, when the children were at school, the police returned, collecting DNA from the girls. After testing everyone, they identified the baby's mother. To everyone's shock, it was Nazma's daughter. Perhaps this was karma for Nazma, who thrived on gossip, exposing others' secrets while neglecting her own household. She was so busy digging into others' lives that she failed to notice her daughter's troubles. As soon as the truth came to light, Nazma's family fled the village, leaving everything behind. Their rented house stood empty, and the landlord later revealed they hadn't paid rent for over a year. Nobody knows where they went. They vanished overnight. The baby, whom we named Abdullah, is still with us. It's been 2 years since that incident, and I'm amazed at how my husband treats Abdullah as his own son, showering him with love and care. My mother-in-law criticizes us, but my husband tells me to ignore her. He even took me to a doctor who explained that having children too quickly had weakened my body, making it difficult to conceive again. In these 2 years, we haven't had another child, and honestly, we haven't tried. My husband insists, take care of yourself. Focus on your health and rest properly. We can think about the future later. With Abdullah in our lives, he seems genuinely happy. He loves our daughters immensely, playing with them, laughing with them, and ensuring they have everything they need. Since Abdullah's arrival, something miraculous has happened. My husband's income has increased significantly, money flowing in effortlessly. He's happier than ever, adoring Abdullah, who calls me Mama, and my husband, Baba. When Abdullah toddles toward me on his tiny feet, my heart fills with joy. My husband had always yearned for a son, and now he has one. It's true what they say. Sometimes we don't get what we want, but we receive something far better in its place. That's how we got Abdullah. My little daughter, Rubina, wanted to help me, and though her actions were unintentional, they transformed our lives completely. Now, you tell me, did my husband and I do the right thing by keeping Abdullah, or did we make a mistake? If you enjoyed our story, please share your thoughts. Stay tuned for our next video, and until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and may Allah bless you all.